Mental health comes up a lot these days, in different ways and contexts. But what does it mean? And is it negative or is it positive? Mental health refers to our psychological, emotional, and social well-being. In the simplest of terms, being mentally healthy means balance. It means your mind is free and flexible enough to enjoy the good things in life and manage or overcome the not so good things. We all have good days and bad days. When we're feeling balanced, it is sometimes easier to enjoy the good things in life, and it is easier to manage or overcome more difficult times. However, when we're off balance, our highs and lows can be really difficult and unpleasant, and sometimes those tough times can be impossible to manage. But how do others describe mental health? The World Health Organization says it's more than just merely the absence of disease. Their official definition says that mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her own community. Now, this is just one definition. Let's take a closer look. When you think about it, mental health is a lot like physical health, and the two are often interlinked. When you're physically healthy, eating well, exercising, sleeping well, and listening to your body, you feel good. Maybe not every day, but most of the time. When we're physically healthy, we can rely on our body to carry out those activities that we want to do in our daily life. However, when we're not so physically healthy, those daily activities can be extremely strenuous and difficult, and it can take extra time and energy to regain strength again. Now, the same is true for our mind. When we're feeling mentally healthy, we feel free and capable. When we're not so healthy, those daily activities can be extremely difficult, and it can take a lot of time and effort to regain balance again. Of course, some mental and physical situations are more complex. For instance, someone living with a significant mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, or bipolar disorder, could be compared to someone with a physical illness that requires special treatment in order to improve or recover. One way to conceptualize these matters of the mind is by exploring something that is called the dual continuum model of mental health. That is just a fancy way of saying that though mental health and mental illness are often related, they are two separate and distinct concepts. The model is divided up into 4 quadrants. On the x-axis is a continuum of serious mental illness on one end and no mental illness symptoms on the other end. On the y-axis is a continuum of poor mental health, languishing, on one end, and optimal mental health, flourishing, on the other end. Each of us fits somewhere in the quadrant at all times of our lives. However, we may not stay in the same place. For instance, I could go throughout my whole life with decent to good mental health without living with a mental illness. However, something could happen and induce a spell of poor mental health. A friend of ours might be struggling with their mental health and also living with a mental illness. But with the proper help and support, they may be able to find balance and enjoy their life while living with a mental illness. This model helps us remember that those living with a mental illness can live rich and rewarding lives, and that those living without a mental illness can also struggle with their mental health. It also reminds us that there are skills, knowledge, and attitudes that can help promote positive mental health, and that literacy around mental illness, understanding symptoms and treatments, is important to us all. So, where do you see yourself in the quadrant today? What makes you say that? Where would you like to see yourself in the quadrant in the future? And what could you do today that could make that vision into a reality?